you're not worth it. If it would have happened for you, it already happened. And, all the things, I mean, these are things I tell myself all the time. You know what I mean? Oh, look at this person. Like, you was in class with that person and look at them go. If it was going to be for you, it happened. You're like, remember you said you was going to do this or this at this age. But then I had to realize I don't give myself enough credit for when I do great things.
What's going on, everybody? My name is Hassiem Muhammad, and you are listening to The Actor's Instrument, where we discuss the essential qualities you need to stand out in the entertainment industry. Everyone knows that the business of show is full of ups and downs. How do we adjust when we're knocked down? How do we keep the faith when our career takes an unexpected turn? And how do we learn from the past in order to curate a more sustainable future? Joining me this week on The Actor's Instrument is one of the most resilient actors I've ever known, who also happens to be one of my greatest friends, Andrew Dominic Manning. Andrew is an actor, model, and entrepreneur. He's a graduate of the LaGuardia High School, otherwise known as the Fame High School of New York City. Andrew received his undergraduate degree from the University of North Carolina School of the Arts, the number 3 ranked drama school in the world. Some of his credits include The Marvelous Miss Maisel, Blue Bloods, Wu-Tang and American Saga, and Power Book 3, Raising Kanan. Andrew, thank you so much for joining me, brother.
My brother, so good to be here. So good for you to have me. Thank you. I'm humble.
Absolutely, bro. Absolutely. I'm so glad we got to find a time for you to be on the show. We've known each other for, damn, bro, like 10 years now. That's crazy.
Decade, a decade of
A
time,
decade.
brother.
Decade. Oh my goodness. That means I'm getting old.
If you getting old, what does that make me?
Oh,
You're right,
you know,
right.
we're coming into our prime. That's what's happening.
You're
Coming into
right.
our
You're
prime.
absolutely right.
You just had an episode of Power drop just a few weeks
Absolutely,
ago.
absolutely.
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate you.
Man, how was that process?
Well, we shot this a year ago, so finally seeing it.
Okay, I was wondering about that because I remembered you like posting stuff from
Yeah.
set, and I was like, so when is this show coming
So
out?
we
And
shot Power in March of 2024. So you all are seeing something that was like literally a year old. So it wasn't like 6 months, 8 months. It was literally a full year until you all saw,
wow.
Power. So it's been some time since I've worked on it. It's been some time since I remember fresh in my head. But
Sure.
seeing it come together, at first I was kind of like, oh, I think I'm always like, that's the Cha Cha Chose. I think in anything I do when I first watch it, I'm always like jarred, I guess, when I see my work. But after processing it, watching it a little bit more, I really enjoyed the storytelling of it. I enjoyed my part of it. I remember doing it and being like, this is something completely outside of myself. And I
Mhm.
felt like I just wanted to try to push my envelope a little bit with this role. So I had a lot of fun doing it, and seeing it was
Hey,
super, super dope.
that's what's up. The Power franchise has created so many jobs. I I think I've auditioned for Power, one of the books or the other, more than literally any other project.
So it's actually very funny because I don't think I've ever really auditioned for Power. An audition didn't come through, or I've not to my memory. Maybe it was Power
Wow.
before the name Power was on it. It could have been an untitled project before, certainly, but I don't remember Power coming across my desk and me being like, "I am going to audition for it." And so when everybody was watching the show, I kind of like got a little sour about it, and I was like, "I'm not watching it. I'm not going to watch the show until like I audition for it." Like that's just kind of how I'm seeing it. You know what I mean? And so when that happened, when the audition came finally, and it was funny because it came at a time with my manager where he asked me like what I wanted to do, and like I was like, Power. The power's there. Like I want to do it. If Power comes up, and no lie, like my second audition for the year of that year, 2024, was Power, and it came across the desk, and I
Wow.
was just like, I want it. I want it. I want it. I
Mm.
want it, and I got it.
Hey, that's what's up. Now, this spot, was that a guest star spot?
Guess our spot. Yeah.
Heard. Okay, so I know when you kick things off with your career, I know you did a few co-stars, and now you've got a couple of guest stars under your belt.
Actually, big shout out to my agency, my former agency, and my managers. But all of my spots, all of my credits have been guest stars. Even my first,
Even Madam Secretary?
even Madam Secretary is a guest star credit.
That's okay, guys. So We're this is an interesting moment for our listeners who are maybe earlier in their career. Um, so typically a co-star, like just historically, is a role that has like 5 or 7 lines or less. They used to call it under five, or sometimes it's known as a day player role. So typically, if a role literally just has like only a few lines, they call it a co-star. And it's not until a role has literally more text, slash like, plot implications that you move into that guest star role. Now, the reason I asked Andrew about Madam Secretary is because I remember I was in school when he did Madam Secretary, and you had one line on that show, right?
Two,
Two lines.
two lines.
It's two lines. Um, and your agent got you guest star billing.
Yes.
That's the power of representation, folks.
And that's what it was, you know what I mean? And I didn't understand it at the time when they did it
Mhm.
for me. When he told me, he was like, "Hey, you're gonna be in the title credits, like in the beginning. So when you watch the episode, you'll see my name in the front, like not at the end, the tail credits. Like you'll see guest starring and all the guest star names, and I'm a part of that group of guest stars. Um, and even when you go on like any other credits, you'll go see that that's what they were negotiating from the beginning.
Mm.
Um, whether it was two lines or whatever, they were fighting for me for that kind of spot, which again, I didn't know at the time, and I'm super appreciative of it now, knowing what I know. And it did set me up in a way that when I was walking in the room, that they would see my resume or they would have gotten it, and they'll see like guest star, guest star, guest star of the different shows. And I'm sure that kind of rings bells,
Mm.
especially when in television and film world. You know what I mean? Just as much when you're in theater, and they see you did this, or you work with that director, and you was in that theater, work with that director. It's kind of the same realm when you're in the television and film world.
Absolutely. And I mean, that has implications on your career as well as your pocket because a
Absolute.
guest
That
star
changes the price, right? Ups the
by a
price.
lot, I correct me if I'm wrong. I think like, well, it's changed over the years, but the co-star minimum is around 1,000 to 1,200 bucks, something like that. Guest star minimum is like 9 to 10K. Like it's that big of a difference, folks. So, that's pretty meaningful. Now, I didn't mean to jump to this at this moment, but we're going to because you brought it up. Y When you graduated, you got representation with A3 Artist Agency, then known as Abrams Artist Agency.
Yes.
For those, if this is ringing a bell, great, huge agency. If it's not ringing a bell for you, one of the biggest agencies in the world over the last 10, 15 years, right? Um, but they shuttered their doors and fully closed in February of 2024. Yes?
Mhm.
Yeah. What has that process been for you? Like, how have you reconciled it? And you and I actually haven't really talked about it in depth much.
I mean, it was a shock, right? It's funny because I remember in January, I was, it's top of the year. I feel like every actor, like at the top of the year, you're just kind of like, all right, new year, I'm here, I'm ready to do what I got to do. And so I was like, let me tap in with my agent, see how I'm doing, let him know what I'm thinking, and just making sure like we're all, ready to go and do this thing. And reached out to my agent, and I believe that was like maybe on the 13th of January, right? And everything was fine. We love you. You look great. Other things. That was it. That was my last conversation with my agent.
Wow.
Got an email that was basically like this was happening. It was funny because I feel like I read about it online before I heard anything. And this is like some people that I've worked with my entire career,
Yeah.
and when people talk about like, you start on the ground with an agent and you go and you go and you go until you make like that was what I felt like I was at. So a part of me was hurt because I felt like I feel like I should have been told. But another part of me was thankful for the amount of time I had with them. You know what I mean? And I understood that like not everything can be disclosed at every given time. And I think it was a surprise for a lot of people that was even working there. It was tough. It was tough for me to process because it was like again, I got so used to a certain level of things, right? Since I graduated college for 10 years, I had an agent that was just sending me on auditions maybe 4 to 8 times a week. I mean, I'm getting sent out for everything. I'm being seen for everything. And at the time, I wish that it was this decade that I have that, and I'll get to that. But at the time, getting all these auditions, I was like, how do I manage all, like, my young actor self, hungry for it all, didn't know how to grasp that. And having them was a true blessing. And now that they're gone is kind of like a moment to either reset myself. But the beauty of Community is this: my manager, my now manager, was at the time of my signing my agent's assistant. So my now manager developed himself throughout my time with my agency into an agent himself, and then left the agency a couple years ago and became a manager, and is now a manager with a management company. So before that had happened, I had reached out to him in 2023, and we had just signed papers for me to be represented by him. And I was like, wow, we got
Wow.
the family back together. So I reached out to my agent, like, how would you feel about this? And he's like, I love him. Of course, like, this is gonna be a great team. And so I was like, we just got the family back together. It kind of felt like that. And then once the agency closed, it was kind of like divine, because I had someone that was who knew me from the very beginning, and who was just as hungry for
Wow.
me at the time that I honestly needed him the most. I
Yeah.
was feeling like I didn't know what to do. And we talked. We talked about everything, and he was like, "Just what do you see yourself doing?" And I told you, I said, "I see myself on this. I see myself on this." I was like, "I see power, and I see roles that, as of right now, I feel like I'm in my bad boy era, where I'm kind of just like, I just want to be the bad boy. I just do. I feel like I want to explore that realm of what that means in storytelling. I want to do those things, and so when I said power, I had that in my mind, and he got me that audition, and I scooped the rest.
Man, you said divine, and that
Yeah.
is really what this is sounding like, some kind of divine intervention, because what are the odds that the assistant at this agency you first signed with and had been signed with for nearly a decade ends up your manager right at the time when that agency closes? That's crazy.
I couldn't write this. You know what I mean? Like, it was just,
Yeah.
it happened and it unfolded. And when it did, I had no control over any of this. And I wouldn't have chosen any of this either. You know what I mean? But the way it has happened, it is a blessing.
Now, as much of a blessing as that has been, I can only imagine, losing representation with A3 still takes a toll in some way or another. Again, one of the biggest and most influential agencies in the world, clearly, as your rep was getting you guest star billing with 2 lines. God dang. Um, so what has your strategy been with your manager on how to fill that void? Or are you guys focused on filling the void? What's your strategy to move forward?
Honestly, moving forward with them didn't feel like we had to fill a void.
Mm.
Honestly, it was more of like, I'm in a place where I want to move in intention with my career. While A3 was a beautiful opportunity for me to be exposed to so many different ventures, either that be film, television, voiceover. I was signed across the board. So I was getting thrown different auditions on a regular basis, whether it was for video games and voiceovers and commercials and television and film and theater. Like, it was just a lot. And at the time, I was juggling a lot. And I was a very young actor trying my best to be what I thought the world needed me to be as an actor. And that's where I said, like, I wish that I had those 10 years right now, is because right now as an actor, I'm more intentional about what kind of stories I want to tell, and why these roles people gravitate towards, and why people are noticing me. And I'm like, I was on several TV shows that I'm sure people probably saw, but they probably don't recognize me. But it's like, now, specifically Wu-Tang and Power has been two TV shows in the universe where people now on the street like, yo, that was you,
Mm.
which is interesting, because I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm just little on me, and I still feel like I'm just that guy from Brooklyn. But it's interesting about what people like. What I saw you do, like, that was dope, bro. Like, that was cool. Like, why you doing that? Talking to me about the scenes and engagement. How you gonna let her do that to you? And this or that, and like all of those kind of conversations that come up. Um, it's very interesting. And right now, I just feel like what me and my manager has is something so authentic and so real that it's not oversaturated with 1,000 auditions,
Mhm.
which gives me room for every other artistic endeavor I want to go on, and all the other things, the plethora of things that I enjoy doing as well. But also, what it does is, like, It's like artistry retention. It feels like.
Mm.
It's like I'm not just pouring myself into various different projects. Every time I get a script, I love it because he
Yeah,
knows that that role would be good for me because that's what I said that I like. So I feel
yeah,
heard. I don't feel like I'm just a machine, an acting machine that can just hit, put you there, put you there, put you here, put you here. All right,
right.
you're an actor, right? Like dance, like that. That's what it started
Yeah,
kind of feeling like. And now it's kind of like a, you want to put your shoes on for this? And I'm like, yeah, I do. I do want to put my tap shoes on for this. And that's kind of how the energy feels with him. And I'm just super grateful. So shout out to my manager. You're an absolute gem. I wouldn't change a thing about our relationship, truly.
that's what's up. Now, that period of time between I don't remember the credit before Power. Maybe it was Blue Bloods or Wu-Tang. I think
It-
you did those in the same year, yeah?
yeah, it was Wu-Tang was first and it was Blue Bloods. So Blue Bloods came in between.
Okay, bet, bet, bet. And ironically, you and I were on the same season of Blue Bloods.
Absolutely.
I was literally the episode right before yours, which was really, really dope.
Family.
Now between Blue Bloods and Power was roughly 3 years. What did you do to keep yourself motivated during that time? I know auditions were coming in, but especially when you've done something already, when you have multiple, television appearances under your belt, like, for it to take years before the next one, how did Andrew stay focused and not lose faith during that time, that downtime?
I had to pivot. I had to do something else. That's just what it was. It was like, yeah, the audition's gonna still come in. Yes, I love this a lot, but there's other things I need to do. There's other things I want to do, but there's also other things that I need to be doing. I need to be exploring other artistry, other realms of enjoyment, as well as technical proficiency, right? I'm not just an actor. I'm also a dancer. So I need to do that. I need to go off and whether it be like go to a party and just dance away or to go take class, whatever it is, I need to do those things. Um, what I will say is I had to focus in on truly self. I had to put my energy into what it is I truly wanted. I had to take a step back, stop moving as fast as I do because I'm someone who likes to move quickly. All right, I like to like do the things. Whether see just like that, I can't even talk because I'm trying to move so fast. Whatever it is, I'm literally trying to jump at the next thing. Um, but I had to learn to stop and take a moment, sit back, assess, reassess, and ask myself some tough questions. Like, does that make you happy?
Mm, yeah.
In doing this, will you get closer to the dreams you set for yourself?
Mm, mm.
And in doing this, does this take away from who you think you are?
That's a heavy question, and I know it's something a lot of artists face, and I wouldn't be surprised if a majority of the folks listening to this episode have come up against that moment where you're between contracts. And whether it feels like between contracts, which sounds very optimistic, like there's another one coming, or whether it feels like, "Oh my god, did I just do my last contract?" You know, that feeling of if I do something else in the meantime, not something else like leave the career, like you said, you're still auditioning and everything, but like if I allow my focus to go to other areas of interest at the same time, am I a fraud? Am I taking away from the main pursuit?
Exactly. And you hear so many people like, you got to devote your time, your energy, your everything into this thing. And like, you need to do all these hours to be a professional and this and this and this. And like, these are the tools and these are the things that was thrown at me as a young actor growing up. So I felt like if I did anything else, I'm less of an actor. The more I do anything else other than acting, I'm less of an actor. If I dance more, now I'm a dancer. If I direct something, now I'm a director. If I start my own business, now I'm an entrepreneur. Those titles scared me from acting because I felt like that's what I'm supposed to be doing because that's what I spent my most time into. Again, high school for this, college for this. Like I invested time that people would put into becoming a doctor, into becoming an artist, and I got to live with that. And now I'm questioning like, did I make the right choice because I'm in between contracts? But the truth of the matter is, every time I did something else, it taught me something much more about acting. every single time, no matter what it was. I started modeling because I was like, you know what? It's got to pay the bills, right? If we can get on some fashion shows, do some like print work, do some things, let's pay the bills. And luckily for me, modeling kind of like took off, right? I kind of used my social media to like push myself, and everyone honestly thought I was a model for a very long time based on like how my Instagram was set up and how I was just like doing the things I was doing to help pay the bills. But how I looked at it, well, how I look at it now, because I'm not going to lie and say I looked at it as like this at the time. How I look at it now is that I was storytelling, right? Those are still images, a moment in time where a person is in a place and is feeling a thing and capturing that. Now, before I was just like, this is a check and I could just stand here and like make this kind of money. But after a while, I started realizing I don't want to do that. I'm at these photo shoots now, and like, yes, I'm getting my rent paid, and yes, I'm doing the things, but now it's starting not to feel as fulfilling. And why is that? What's going on? And I couldn't just stand there to be a pretty face, or I couldn't just be there just to be that. I need to there to be a story. I need there to be some kind of context of like what's going on. I crave that. And that's just the person I am, the artist I am inside. And when I started to look at everything I do through that lens, that's when it shifted.
Man, so I would love to talk about more of that in between contract type stuff, right? Because I think about folks like Sarah Jessica Parker owns a shoe line, Ryan Reynolds, credit card company, amongst other things. I mean, have you seen the new commercial? Anthony Anderson got a barbecue sauce.
He do? I'll try
Yep.
it.
It's Anthony Anderson and Cedric the Entertainer. I think it's Anthony's line though. My point is, at the highest level in our industry, artists do things in between contracts. And a lot of times at not as high of a level, feel some sort of shame for doing so.
Mhm.
Now, I know you are a business owner. You have a production company slash clothing brand called A Dangerous Mind. Can you chat with us a little bit about ADM?
Yes. So ADM, A Dangerous Mind LLC, is my umbrella corporation, where I have both my ADM apparel as well as my ADM studios. And ADM apparel is where I started creating, everyday kind of streetwear, right? I mentioned before that I was a model and I was doing a lot of fashion shows. I was in New York Fashion Week consecutively for a couple of years, and honestly just got kind of bored with the clothes that I was wearing on runways. One, I can't afford them, and two, I personally would don't think I would actually really buy them. And I was like, I'm just more of the person who wants like the everyday attire. So I started building clothes like that. And I knew a producer in New York Fashion Week because I was a model, and I just like kind of threw the idea at them that I might want to like design some clothes, and I had an idea of like what it might be. And he's like, "Well, send me a proposal, and I'll just talk to you about like how it would work if you were actually proposing for New York Fashion Week." I did that, and I got an email saying that I was selected as a designer for New York Fashion Week, and I was just like, "I'd never asked to do this. I don't sew. I was just trying to do some things and just trying to like get mentorship, bro." But I also looked at that moment like, what can I do if I this opportunity walked into my lap, fell into my lap, not walked, dropped into my lap? What do I do with it? I found an artist that I was really close with at the time. I found a seamstress, found some clothes, and I was like, we're gonna paint and tell stories on jackets. And I used my favorite love, my love of science, going back to my elementary school days as a little kid, and that's what it felt like. I felt like a kid playing, just like how I feel when I'm acting, like a child playing, running back and forth. I was just like, these colors, these textures, and this, and like I love science, so let's make each jacket about different natural disasters and wildfires and this and that. And that whole jacket collection sold at New York Fashion Week. Why? How? I don't know, but it did, and I was just confused and amazed at the outpour of support that I got, from the people in the fashion world, as well as people that's in my corner, my tribe, my community.
Yeah.
Um, and then after that started rolling and people started hitting me up, I was realizing that photographers cost a lot of money. Like to get a commercial, and I'm someone who's like, I want a commercial for this, and I want to do this, and I want to do this, and I'm just like, how do I make this all happen? And I don't have all the money for this. I don't have Nike campaign money. I don't have, and again,
Okay.
I'm an artist who understands that we all live in New York. We got bills to pay. So what can I do? And I was like, well, Drew, let's be real. You're an actor. You've done television and film. You've been in film school, you've taken the classes of the different roles behind the camera, on set, and like behind and in front. Invest in your own camera. Saved up $3,000, bought me a nice, DSLR from Sony, got me all the attachments and equipments and setups. I went on YouTube University, everyone, and just looked up a setup that I thought seemed like the rig that would do the things I needed it to be. And then before I knew it, I was making videos. And before I knew it, I had music artists like, yo, can we make a music video together? And I'm like, I've never done that, but I kind of want to do that. Like that sound to direct a music video and shoot it. Like I've never done that. Like, why not? And
Yeah.
then before I knew it, I was doing music videos on the sides of, my own campaigns for my clothing line and all of this. And then that's kind of how my organization kind of grew. And that's what I'm known for now. So now I work with nonprofit organizations. I work with GT's Playhouse, which is a nonprofit organization for kids on the spectrum here in the city. Um, where
Okay.
I do their, fashion show events, where they do a New York City fashion show event for their organization. And I shoot all of the content that goes with that. You know what I mean? And I'm doing, short films and, small like, content creation, like moments with a lot of different artists in New York City. And it's just been a blessing. So ADM has grown not only just from like a clothing line, but it's grown into like a community, a family. And like, I mean, if you know anything about my brand, you know that like if you go on my website and you put in ADM fan before you buy anything or purchase anything, you automatically get a 30% discount. So fun fact, it's always about family for me. And that's what I realized that I wanted more of. I feel like you could isolate it in between those contract moments. And when you're left to your own thoughts, I'm sorry, as an artist, as an actor, our overactive imaginations, we start creating the craziest script that our life's not.
Speak on that. Okay.
You
We
tell
be
yourself
writing all kinds of stories.
all kinds of stories. You're not worth it. If it would have happened for you, it already happened. And, all the things. I mean, these are things I tell myself all the time. You know what I mean? Oh, look at this person. Like you was in class with that person and look at them go. If it was going to be for you, it happened. You're like, remember you said you was going to do this or this at this age. But then I had to realize I don't give myself enough credit for when I do great things as an actor. I like to, I'm not going to speak for all actors, but what I do as an actor, I minimize my triumphs because they were two lines. Oh, it was just two lines. So, nothing too crazy. No, you're on TV. You're on CBS. That's big,
Which like less than 2% of actors ever have the ability to say.
right? You got to do
Yeah.
this and this. And I've been blessed in my career over the 10 years. It's been 10 years to 22. I graduated college in 2015. It's 2025. It's literally been 10 years of many triumphs. But I spent a lot of those throughout my 20s bashing myself. That wasn't enough. I had to remind myself to don't confuse my hunger with overconsumption, oversaturated meals of artistry. I started to crave the things that inside I never really wanted to do. And if you know me, I don't like to be told what to do. I don't want to do things I don't want to do. So putting myself in those areas just was setting me up for heartbreak.
Now, you've a couple of times in our conversation, you've hinted at things that you learned when you were younger. What are you, 31 now?
Yeah,
Okay, so still young relatively, but it's a new decade,
for sure.
right? And a lot happens for most people in their 20s. There's
Mhm.
a whole book I have it on my shelf. It's called The Defining Decade.
Mm.
Not a sponsorship or anything. It's just a really fantastic book. And it's all about your 20s. What did you learn in your 20s that you are now looking to apply to your 30s and as you move forward in your career?
What I learned in my 20s is that I spent my entire 20s fighting to prove to the world that I belonged in this field, in this industry, in this artistry. I was fighting former faculty members. I was fighting former, you know, casting directors who told me that I would never be here, former directors that would say I would never make it. I was fighting all of those things. I came out fighting and like fighting in not all the best ways, right? It's good to fight in certain ways, but I was fighting to prove that I should be here. When in reality, I've always known that. You belong here because every door that opened, you has been there for you, and you have no idea why it happened. Starting back from LaGuardia, the infamous fame school where everyone in New York City and across the world kind of want to be at, that comes for high school. No
Yeah.
training, no background in acting whatsoever. I went in there, auditioned with material they tell you not to do. They say, don't do Shakespeare at 13. And I understand why, of course, but I did. They hated it. I'm sure they hated it. But my other monologue just happened to show off the energetic side of myself. That door opened. UNCSA accepts 26 kids a year. I had a classmate tell me that I wasn't gonna get into that school, and I was like, "Yeah, you're probably right." Because they only accept 26 kids a year. They asked me to tap dance at my audition for UNCSA. I was wearing Timbs in New York City because it was snowing in February. Guess what your boy did?
Lord.
Tap dance in Timbs. Was that the
Hey.
reason I got into the school? That's what I like to think. But again, another space where I didn't know that I would be there. I didn't know that it was for me. I always felt less of an actor because I didn't have all of the training. Even though I was going through the training, I was doing other things, I still felt like I'm missing something. And all in
Yeah.
all, I just had to see that you are worth it. You work hard. I had to start giving myself those hand claps that no one else was giving me.
Mm.
That's so important. Because I mean, you could have a great sense of community behind you, but if you're not doing it for yourself, then like no one knows how to do it.
Facts.
So I think that's what I'm applying to my 30s. Is I'm not minimizing my triumphs anymore. I'm allowing the great things to be as great as they are, the hard things to be as hard as they are, and approaching it with intention every single time.
Hell yeah. That's what's up, bro. That's what's up. I do have that was such a nice moment, but I do have one final question.
You're good.
It's the question I ask everyone.
Okay.
At the top of the show in the intro, I say, this is the show where we explore the qualities that you need in order to succeed.
Mhm.
Um, I'd like to know what your defining quality is as a storyteller. What separates Andrew D. Manning from everyone else?
I think what separates me from everyone else is my ability to allow myself to take the risk of what people might call dangerous in their work,
Mhm.
but to take it and not apologize for it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stand 10 toes every time. And you might
Hey,
hate my character, but that's okay too. But I did what I had to do.
facts.
That's kind of how I like to move.
Stay dangerous, right?
Stay dangerous, baby.
Drew, bro. I mean,
My
you know
brother.
this. I've looked up to you since I was in college. I love you, man, and your tenacity never ceases to amaze me. I appreciate you coming onto the show today. I appreciate you sharing so much of yourself and especially those parts of our journey that we don't like to shine a light on
Right.
because those weren't the most fun times. I appreciate your vulnerability.
I just
Thank
want to
you.
say this. I appreciate you. Right. You've been not only just a close friend, my little brother for a very long time. And your hustle, your grind. I remember when you came to visit UNCSA before you came to the school. And a brother of ours was like, yo, this is a little bro. And when he here, you're gonna see. You've never not shown me how great you are. This is exactly what you should be doing always. You're always gonna do great things, whether that's gonna be award-winning regional theater performances, award-winning podcasts, TV shows galore. Just keep doing it. I ain't gotta tell you that, but keep it going, baby.
Appreciate you, bro.
Always.
If you enjoyed this conversation with Andrew Manning, then you'll love one of the first interviews I ever did featuring Sadiq Saunderson from Wu-Tang and American Saga. So be sure to check that out. Everyone, thank you so much for tapping into this episode of The Actor's Instrument. Wherever you're listening, please give us a like, subscribe, or a follow. Can't tell you how much it helps the show. And we'll be back next Tuesday. Till next time, y'all. Peace.